We are now 1/3 of the way through the list of our top 15 favorite wrestlers of all time. You've seen the bottom of the best, but now let's go through the mid-card, shall we say. This is our top 15 wrestlers of all time, numbers 10 through 6. Hello, everybody. My name is Calcos, and joining me is...
Student Critic Y2K, your cult personality.
And Nicky V, the one who hasn't figured out what his nickname is.
Now, we are, as I said, 1/3 of the way, so we have our top 10 wrestlers to go through, and I think it's just fitting that we jump right into it with a face that I think you are all going to be familiar with, even though most of you have never seen his face. Take it away.
Destined to become nothing more than a simple mid-carder with flashy moves, our number 10 entry was nothing short of a superhero to people young and old. Standing at a mere 5'6", nobody could have foreseen this guy accomplishing the things that he did, from the 5-star matches in WCW to winning the World Heavyweight Championship in WWE. He proves without a doubt that no matter your size, you can become a spectacular and well-respected wrestler. Introducing the littlest big guy in the WWE, Rey Mysterio. All right, Rey Mysterio is actually how I got into wrestling. I don't know if I've shared the story or not. When I was a lot younger, I used to watch like a lot of Mucha Lucha on Kids WB, and I was in love with, like Lucha Libre and stuff. I remember getting my hands on, I think like on YouTube, some luchador matches. I don't remember exactly which ones, but I know they were from ECW with Rey Mysterio. And it was also before then I saw Los Luchadores on Fox Kids. Nobody knows what that show is besides me. It's it was stupid and silly, but it really got me interested with luchadors. And Rey Mysterio was one of the big reasons why I got into wrestling. Seeing him do all the high-paced actionly that's a word, actionly stuff was really...
Action-y is what you're looking for.
You know what? That sounds better. Let's go with that. He was really a big part of how I got into this, and it really sucks that he's not wrestling now, I guess, because poor guy's been through so much.
He did just get signed by AAA, so...
Really?
Yeah.
He was signed by AAA, and he's expected to wrestle in, well, Lucha Underground, so...
Remember how I said, what, it'd be great if Lucha Underground got Rey Mysterio? Well, guess what? I guess my wish came true.
We might actually see a match between Rey Mysterio and Chavo Guerrero for the first time in, 6 years?
Give or take.
That would have to be the main event of a big Lucha Underground thing, because they would not, they would have to build it up for that.
Didn't he turn heel a little bit in WCW?
Maybe.
With what were they fucking called? Eddie's group or something. Something. What was it? This is where your WCW friend would come in handy.
You're thinking the Latino World Order?
Yes, that.
Yeah. The LWO.
Yeah. The thing is, with Rey Mysterio in WCW, my friend actually says that Rey Mysterio in WWE was severely limited by the WWE style. The Rey Mysterio you saw in WWE is half the wrestler that you saw in WCW, and this is readily apparent because his absolute best match was not in WWE, it was in fact on WCW. Halloween Havoc 1997 against Eddie Guerrero.
Yes. When I got one of the early Rey Mysterio DVDs, I used to watch that match all the time.
I look at this match and I'm just like, why is the 619 his finisher? I used to think it was really, really cool when I was a teenager watching, but watching that match, almost everything Rey Mysterio does is a legit finisher. The springboard backflip DDT? That is the
Jesus.
first time I've ever seen anybody do it, and is the only time I've ever seen anybody do something like that. If you've seen that match, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen that match, go watch it. That match is basically Rey Mysterio doing flippy shit all over the place, and Eddie Guerrero's skill set allowing him to do so. That is the match, and it is glorious.
Well, it should also be noted, this was in 97, right? At the time, he was only like 22 or 23, so this was him hitting his athletic, like, peak. This was the time when he was able to do the flippiest of all his flippy shit. So I guess by the time he came to the WWE, maybe he was also a little worn down. That might have contributed to why he had to tone it back a little bit. But
even then, in his early WWE days, like you could see bits and pieces of like his you could see bits and pieces of his WCW stuff, and I still think it was really good. Like the matches he had with Tajiri and Matt Hardy, for example.
He was basically smaller, more Mexican-y or Cena. He was the guy who got almost anybody who is interested in wrestling interested in his style of wrestling. And
Booyaka, booyaka, never give up. Booyaka, booyaka, rise above hate. Booyaka, booyaka, 5 moves of doom. Booyaka, booyaka. This is getting old now.
But no, that's the thing, though. Rey Mysterio really never got old. He never really got stale. Like, no matter what you put him in, whether it was, like, in his 2006 Royal Rumble, or whether it was in fucking WrestleMania 22, my first WrestleMania, he was always the center of attention, even when he wasn't trying to be. He would always steal the show in whatever match he tried. And yeah, he had some off days, but even in, like, some of his later days, you could tell, like, hey, he still got it in him. I wish that they would have chanted, the crowd, like, you still got it. Because Rey Mysterio, despite all the injuries, he still performed as best he could. He was never really like, oh, God, he looks so slow in the ring. He looks so old. He'd be like, no, fuck that. I'm going to give the best show that I can.
Yeah, maybe the Cena comparisons wasn't the best one I could have given. My bad. But yeah.
Kids loved him too. Kids absolutely loved him. And I think that was great. WWE jumped on that because when they had the Latino market get interested in their stuff, they put Rey Mysterio right at the top. He was like really over with kids. He was really over with like the crowd. And he just rolled it out for as long as he could.
Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him in WCW and in WWE. Nobody disliked him.
The only time I think that he's ever legitimately been booed was in the 2014 Royal Rumble.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel so bad for him.
He stepped out of there, like, booyaka, booyaka hit, and the crowd just let him have it, and he was like...
And he's just like, what? What'd I do? What'd I do?
What the fuck is this?
Rey, you didn't do anything. Blame your boss.
That's probably the first time he's gotten legit booed.
Man, this Pittsburgh crowd sucks.
Rey Mysterio at number 10.
And now we move on to number 9. Nikki, take us away.
Alrighty then, at number 9, some may call this guy a glorified stuntman, but our number 9 entry has proven time and time again that he is much more than that. Through his great comedic sense, amazing promos, and willingness to adapt, he is the total package. As far as the stuntman part goes, however, he defined the term extreme during an era where extreme meant everything. Some call him Cactus Jack, Dude Love, or Mankind, but most people nowadays will call him by his real name, Mick Foley.
Mick Foley. Oh, man. Mick Foley is actually a guy that I managed to meet at, I think it was last year at this Chicago Comic Expo. I didn't get a picture with him, but I met him. And this guy was so chill. He looks like an old Santa Claus, but he looks so cuddly and friendly. And then as I left, I'm like, this is the same guy that went through a flaming table at WrestleMania 22.
And this is the same guy whose weapon of choice is a 2x4 covered in barbed wire.
He's got that kid-friendly image now, but you gotta just Google him or look him up on YouTube, and you can see.
Triple H is begging you right now not to Google Mick Foley.
See, what's amazing about Mick Foley, though, is that he would have been a nobody had he not been in the right place at the right time. You have to think about his history. He got his start in WCW in the early 90s, but when WCW was going through a whole bunch of management changes around 1994 when Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage were on board, Mick Foley realized that there wasn't really a place for him, so he jumped ship to ECW, where he could utilize his talents of being able to handle pain better than any other living person. But he changed his character into a non-extreme child-friendly heel, where he would make all of his matches ridiculously boring in order to get heel heat. WWE noticed this and brought him along, and they gave him a character that was called, like, Mace the Mutilator or something. And
Mason the Mutilator, yeah.
Mason the Mutilator. Mick hated that, so he went to Vince and said, well, you know what? If my character's all about discussing the end of mankind, why don't I just call myself Mankind? Vince said that's a good idea, so they did. They put him in a feud immediately with The Undertaker, which was a big deal, because The Undertaker was carrying WWE at that point. That went over okay, but it wasn't until 1997 when he started a series of interviews with Jim Ross, and that interview really discussed not just the character Mankind, but the person Mick Foley. And it's one of the first times in wrestling history where the lines between kayfabe and reality were completely blurred. And that's when Mick Foley won over Vince. And Vince heard about the Dude Love character and was like, hey, you want to do that? So in summer of 1997, he became Dude Love. After he went back to being Mankind, he started switching between the two characters and then was able to bring Cactus Jack into the scene. So Mick Foley is incredibly versatile. These are three completely unique characters that he was able to bring to life on your television screen, to the point of acting as all three in different intervals at the 1998 Royal Rumble.
That bit where he is playing as all three at the same time still makes me laugh my ass off, because the look on Triple H's face is like, fuck, this dude is nuts. He thinks he's all three of these people.
Do you remember, oh god, this is probably really obscure, but do you remember at like Taboo Tuesday, like 2000 and like, I think 5 or whatever?
No, I don't remember, but go on.
It was, okay, he was going up against Carlito. Okay, firstly, who remembers Carlito Caribbean Cool?
Oh, I do. I was watching during his debut. I hated that little motherfucker.
He
had a match with Carlito, and he had this promo where he kept switching between like all three characters, and he squashed Carlito in like less than 5 minutes in a match where like the fans voted and they wanted him to be fucking Mankind.
Oh.
I just find it really interesting because, yeah, he was very versatile. If you read any of his books that he's made, by the way, this guy's been through hell. He's like lost an ear. He's really fucked himself up, and yet he still is able to retain enough memory to write a bunch of bestseller books, at least more than 3. And if you read some of those books, you find that he has a real mind for like the business. He has a good sense of like what real storytelling is. He knows a lot of secrets that I think some wrestlers now should pick up on.
With all the problems that WWE trainers and story writers have had in recent weeks, cough, cough, Bill-DeMott, cough, cough, Mick Foley, I believe, needs to be a bigger part of the creative process, because he was the kind of guy who could literally do anything. He was the guy who could do like the heavy interviews and also could do like really grueling matches, but he was also the funny guy, and he could do tag teams, he could do single stuff. The guy could do pretty much anything you asked him to, and he would do it to the point where the crowd would be eating out of his hands.
Dare I say he was a Mick of all trades?
Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
I am glaring at you right now. I am glaring at you from Louisiana to Illinois right now.
With all of the talent, we've been discussing their biggest matches. With Mankind, well, Mick Foley specifically, his biggest match was King of the Ring 1998, Hell in a Cell between The Undertaker and Mankind, but we've already discussed that at length. Instead, I would like to bring the court's attention to his biggest moment, which is arguably the biggest moment in the history of Monday Night Raw. January 4th, 1999, on Monday Night Raw, Mankind wins the WWE Championship against The Rock. It changed everything. I'm going to lay a situation out for you. What happened was that WCW had access to WWE's Raw tapes. So they watched the tape and they saw, oh, Mankind wins the championship against The Rock. We're going to announce this on the show on Monday Nitro to keep people hooked on Nitro so they don't have to flip over to Raw. So they did.
And we got the infamous line.
We got the infamous line. That'll put butts in seats. Yeah.
And by God, did it!
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony Schiavone, for getting 600,000 people to switch to Monday Night Raw as Stone Cold Steve Austin comes into the ring, hits The Rock with the chair, pulls Mankind over The Rock, and the crowd explodes. You will not get a bigger pop-off than you did then. That was the biggest crowd reaction in wrestling history. Nothing else comes close. And it cemented Mankind and further yet Mick Foley as a legend.
You know what WCW fans would have watched if they stayed on Monday Nitro? You know what also happened on January 4th, 1999?
The infamous, the legendary, and the industry-killing Finger Poke of Doom.
Oh God, that
happened on the same night. And if hearing that Mick Foley was winning the title didn't make people go, oh, I think I'm going to check out WWE or WWF at the time. That would get people to go, fuck you, WCW. I am outie.
Some people will say that the moment that everything changed was when Mike Tyson was introduced to the WWE product, or Stone Cold Steve Austin wins the championship against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, or D-Generation X was formed, or D-Generation X invades WCW. A lot of people will note a whole bunch of turning points for when the momentum shifted in WWE's favor. But for my money, January 4th, 1999, that moment was the moment that sealed everything. That's when WWE won the Monday Night War.
It was pretty much the moment that WWE was hitting its apex, while the WCW was beginning its free fall.
It was a real big changing point.
Mick Foley, number 9. Thank you, Mick Foley, for all of the wonderful things you've done, including putting in hours and hours of phone calls and time into the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, trying to raise support for abuse victims, for all of the books that you've written, and for all of just the wonderful things that you've done for wrestling and for the world in general. Have a nice day.
By the way, one last thing. The mandible claw, his finisher. I've had that happen to me with an actual sweat sock. Let me just tell you, I feel so bad because I remember actually passing out from that.
Jeez.
Oh God.
That move looks disgusting. I'm not gonna lie.
It was really disgusting. I almost threw up from that. How do the wrestlers fucking handle that move? It's a dirty fucking sweat sock shoved down their throats.
Pants.
Can we move on to the next wrestler, please?
Yes, Calcos, this is your wrestler here.
Okay, here's where some controversy might happen, but we put this wrestler here anyway, and you can mouth off in the comments below. There is no question where this wrestler's biggest strength lies. His wrestling is decent and his look is fairly standard. But what made this man worthy of his list is his absolute mastery of the art of promos. When he grabbed the mic, you paid attention. Everything he said turned into a catchphrase. His raw charisma attracted viewers from across the world, and he is now worth over $100 million thanks to his lucrative Hollywood career. Introducing number 8 on this list, The Rock.
Controversy.
Okay, so where do we start with Dwayne Johnson?
Can I just say he has a funny name? I'm sorry, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson just does not have a ring to it as The Rock.
Well, it's better than Dwayne "Rocky Maivia" Johnson, right? You know what? We'll start there. There. Rocky, well, he got his start in WWE. He's been homegrown because the WWE has loved Samoans since like the WWF era from the 60s. And they still do. Sometimes that's good with Umaga and the Usos, and other times it's bad. And I don't even need to name who. So they brought on Dwayne Johnson, and they decided to name him Rocky Maivia. It's a combination of the names of Rocky Johnson and Peter Maivia, who were his descendants, I think father and grandfather. And kind
of like what they did with Curtis Axel now.
Yeah, very similar to that. But he came in, and he was supposed to be the super clean babyface who always gave 110% for the fans, and nobody liked it. To the point where they were chanting "Die Rocky Die" at appearances, and Dwayne obviously gets really, really frustrated. So creative does something to try and save this guy because his wrestling skill and his charisma is too much. We can't let him go. So they decide to turn him heel and have him join the Nation of Domination. But he started his reign in Nation of Domination as the Intercontinental Champion and held it for a while until Triple H took it from him in a ladder match, a good ladder match, by the way. And from there, he took over the Nation of Domination and eventually turned face. This is when people really saw just how good he was with a microphone.
I will grant him this. I'm not the biggest Rock guy in the world, but I will grant you this. The guy can cut a promo like you would not believe. He could turn anything into something that you want to listen to. He is one of the best speakers, if not the best speaker in WWE history.
The fun thing about that is that The Rock was like red hot since he became face, and then when he went away for a while to do such a wonderful choice in the movie like Scorpion King, he kind of just fell off the face of the planet for a while until I believe it was 2011 when he came back. Yeah, when they were announcing the host for WrestleMania, everybody was like, okay, who's it gonna be? Is it gonna be like such and such? Is it gonna be somebody like from the past? I remember when they were announcing that, and this still sticks with me as one of my favorite moments. Like, this is one of my favorite moments as a wrestling fan, when they like drop the lights and you can see like electricity on the screen. Once you hear, "If you smell," the crowd explodes in the biggest pop that I've ever heard. Like, I know the Mick Foley winning the championship pop was big. This was like, holy shit.
The Rock, they did a really interesting thing, though, at the tail end of 1999. They turned, I'm sorry, not the tail end of 1999, the tail end of 1998. They turned him heel. They turned him heel in a very odd decision, a very risky decision, in order to have him feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin. As it turns out, it was a very good decision. Their matches were not the best. In fact, very few of Stone Cold Steve Austin's matches were that great ever since he broke his neck. But the fact remains, those two could go on the mic and in the ring.
When you've got two dudes like Rock and Austin who are, without a doubt, heads above everybody else, the two biggest dudes in the company, you gotta have them go at each other at some point, and one of them's gotta be the heel, and they understandably didn't want to turn Stone Cold heel, because when they eventually did turn Stone Cold heel, it was shit.
Much like Mick Foley, though, The Rock can't be summed up with one match, his best match, because he doesn't really have a best match. You have to go with his best segment. And his best segment happens to be the highest rated segment in Monday Night Raw history. 9 million people tuned in to watch the 20-minute magnum opus between The Rock and his tag team partner Mankind, and the segment is simply called "This Is Your Life."
9 million viewers. Shit, WWE can't even get past 4.
9 million people. It is the highest rated segment ever. The segment went on for 20 minutes, and Vince, as it was going on, was notably frustrated. He was like, this is good, but it's not 20 minutes good. And so he scolded Mick Foley and The Rock when they came out, saying, that went on for way too long. That's bad. People are going to get bored. So the Nielsen ratings came in, and the numbers were huge. And that's when Vince... Yeah, that's when Vince had to go to them and say, you know what? Do whatever you want. I don't care anymore.
You know, when you have Vince just saying, you know what, fuck it, just do whatever you want, I don't care. You know, you're just kind of sitting there rubbing your hands, even like, oh, the things I can do.
I'll be honest, my favorite part of the This Is Your Life segment was at the very end, because this whole thing was supposed to be about Rocky's birthday. And he's like, The Rock would like to thank all of his fans for being so appreciative of this momentous moment. But as for you, my birthday is May the 2nd, you stupid son of a bitch. Oh my God, it was great.
If you guys can find the segment, go watch it. It is so disorganized and so just ridiculous, but it's so funny. It's one of the funniest things I have ever seen, and you owe it to yourself to have a nice chuckle at those two guys. The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, at number 8.
All righty. Number 7 on the list. Toon, I believe it is your turn.
Oh boy, this is gonna really spark up some controversy, but damn, it's my lucky number, and I feel that we're off to a pretty good start with this one. All right, so at the number 7 spot is a wrestler that from the beginning was never supposed to make it to the top. This guy carried with him the tools of the trade and made an impact right from the start. From his humble beginnings in the indie circuit to the lower ranks of the WWE's version of ECW, this wrestler climbed and clawed his way to the top, whether Vince McMahon liked it or not, and proceeded to lay down a statement one night that would shake WWE to its core. You could even say it was a pipe bomb. He carried the WWE Championship for 434 days, and despite his shortcomings, in the end, he certainly had everyone's attention by the time he became champion. Ladies and germs, CM Punk. Yes, CM Punk is above The Rock. Fuck
Controversy!
Da, 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 da.
Controversy!
Da, 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 da.
What can really be said about CM Punk at this point? I've gushed over CM Punk like so many times on this podcast.
The fact that he's the most lovable jackass ever. Like, he's an asshole, but he's the kind of asshole that you have to like.
I've already made my thoughts clear in a video about CM Punk once.
When I met CM Punk for the first time, and I was so glad that I got to, just one time, I was in, I think, Borders bookstore in my hometown, and I was getting the WWE Encyclopedia, and he was doing signings there. So I was thinking of a question to ask him, and I stupidly asked, like when I got up to him, say, I wonder, how come you don't do the Anaconda Vice move anymore? And this was around the time of WrestleMania 24. When Money in the Bank was happening, where he won Money in the Bank that year, because I was really excited, like, I hope you win. And he just looked up to me, he's just like, well, I kick people, isn't that good enough? And I'm just like, yeah, man, that's pretty cool, I hope you win this year. And he did, and I was so happy about it. But CM Punk has always been like, okay, the guy you see on screen is pretty much the guy you can expect in real life. This guy was an inspiration for me, because when he cut that pipe bomb, he really gave me a sense of, like, you know, I guess sort of rebellious attitude that I could pick up on. I could speak my mind. Of course, that put me into a lot of trouble, but I didn't give a fuck. And he's one of the best wrestlers that I have ever seen. He can take it with just about anybody.
He's one of those guys who can make pretty much anybody look good. He can face lucha guys, he can face high flyers, the brawlers, the big guys, the anybody's.
He has a versatile wrestling, style that works for, just about anybody, I would think.
And it does, and he's good because as far as technical wrestling goes, Bret Hart says that CM Punk is one of the better ones. When you have Bret Hart's blessing like that, you have to piss your pants in excitement because that is it. That's how you know you've made it. And CM Punk was kind of climbing and clawing through the ranks. He won Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 24. He cashed in his World Heavyweight Championship. He cashed in his case for the World Heavyweight Championship against Edge. And Jeff Hardy tried to win it against him. And I think he lost because I know that when Jeff Jarrett, holy shit.
Wow.
Sorry. When Jeff
He's
Hardy.
mentioning TNA people. This is like, we need an intervention on him now.
Oh my God, shut up. When Jeff Hardy overdosed, he actually overdosed right after that match because CM Punk cut that promo on him saying, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't ever plan on doing them, but you, every single time you lose, every time you fail, you're gonna sink back into that hole of substance abuse. And CM Punk was not lying. Jeff Hardy overdosed and was ejected from the WWE. He was arrested for possession with intent to sell.
Oh, nice going, Jeff. You were red hot. You had the WWE Championship, and you had to fuck it all up.
Sorry, man. But drug addicts, it's a hard thing to beat.
It was so weird because when CM Punk and Jeff Hardy were facing off, those were my top two at the time, and I was so split. But when I found out all the stuff that happened with Jeff Hardy was a huge inspiration to me, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
It kind of made sense that those two would end up going at it then, because, straight edge guy versus druggie.
Straight edge guy, straight edge society. Probably the worst thing that Punk has ever done is the straight edge society shit.
I liked it. I liked it. I looked through the archives and I looked through that and I liked it. He was a very good heel. You loved to hate the guy.
Yeah, but I think I liked it better when he was a part of the Nexus.
Yeah, but only because that led to the biggest build-up, the biggest match, the biggest big. It was the match that's put Money in the Bank as a pay-per-view on the map. We've discussed this match before, but it bears repeating. CM Punk's biggest, most important match ever. His WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank 2011 against John Cena. If John Cena lost, he would be fired. If CM Punk lost, he would leave the WWE without the championship. If he won, he would leave the WWE with the WWE Championship. There was so much going on in this feud, and the match, oh my God, the match, from the moment CM Punk walked into the crowd to the moment it went off the air, and I'm counting the time after the match because the story was still unfolding at that point. Do you guys know how long that was?
Dare I ask?
44 minutes.
Jeez.
The whole thing, a one-on-one singles match from start to finish, was 44 minutes long. That is so important because it allowed John Cena and CM Punk to tell a story in the ring. And that is CM Punk's forte. It's something a lot of WWE wrestlers nowadays can't really do. Despite their wrestling talent, they have a hard time telling stories in the ring. CM Punk was very good at that. And in fact, it was the first WWE match in over a decade to receive a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer and win Match of the Year from the Wrestling Observer.
Getting to be there to witness that match, though, is something that I'm gonna, as a wrestling fan, I'm gonna hold dear. It's probably one of, I think that's my second all-time favorite moment. First being Rey Mysterio winning the championship at WrestleMania 22. The thing is, when you see moments like that live, it doesn't. When you watch it on TV, it doesn't do any justice for actually being there, getting to cheer and just go ape shit over that.
It's the only 5-star match that has happened in the WWE in the last 18 years. The last time it happened was Shawn Michaels v. The Undertaker in 97.
That's not 18 years.
97?
97, that's 14 years.
In the last 18 years from right now. From right now until then, that's...
I understand now.
You know what's funny also is that, fun little fact, Cena has never really been in many hour-long matches. The only other people that he's managed to go almost an hour with, and I think almost precisely an hour, was his Iron Man match with Randy Orton and his match, I think almost immediately after WrestleMania 23 against Shawn Michaels.
I remember something kind of weird about that match because that match ended up going for a full hour, and there was another match that was supposed to happen that didn't happen because that match went on for too long between Orton and Edge.
Yeah, because Orton and Edge totally would have been able to top that.
Yeah.
Anyway, CM Punk, number 7, one of the greatest wrestlers to ever be in the WWE. My personal all-time favorite choice.
We miss you, man. We hope that the shit in MMA works out.
Yeah.
I do too.
We do miss you. You're an asshole, but I do miss you. And that's why all the kids keep chanting CM Punk when the Smarks start the chants. They don't know the history between CM Punk and WWE. They didn't listen to the podcast. They just miss you.
It just sucks that the last thing that he ever did in the WWE was voice in WWE Flintstone Stone Age SmackDown. He could have gone out on a better note. He really could have. But you know what? He left behind a legacy with his 434 days, and that's what matters. When you leave the WWE, you leave with a legacy. You leave with something for people to always remember you by. If you do that, you are pretty much guaranteed to live forever in terms of WWE. Here's the thing. It's so hard nowadays for wrestlers to leave an impact, leave a memorable legacy behind them. And CM Punk is one of those guys that did it. Daniel Bryan is more than likely going to be the next one to do that. Cena, when he leaves, is going to be the next one to probably do that. But that's what matters, leaving behind a legacy, which ties in nicely with our last pick on this video. Nikki, go ahead.
All right. You mentioned him earlier in this podcast. For 25 years and counting, this wrestler has been the benchmark for what it means to be a so-called technical wrestler. In the early 90s, when most matches within the WWE were slow, plodding affairs between giants, this wrestler dared to change the mold with his high-precision style and perfect storytelling ability. Unfortunately, the WWE would constantly fight with him every step of the way while trying to appease his fans, and in 1997, an infamous screw job would see his career destroyed in an instant. Thankfully, the fans would never forget him, and he would make amends with the WWE in early 2010. At number 6, please welcome the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Man, Bret Hart. At the time when I became a wrestling fan, I had no idea who he was until they started releasing the DVD about him, the one with the documentary and the best of matches, coinciding with him being in the Hall of Fame at around WrestleMania 22. And when I saw this, I felt like I had gotten such an education out of it. I had thought to myself, why don't people talk about him now? At the time, he was amazing in the ring. He had this aura to him that we don't see a lot of nowadays.
You want to talk about his commencement speech at the Hall of Fame that year? Because that was beautiful.
That is so awkward.
Yeah.
If you want cringe, go watch it. It is fucking A. It is so awkward. I can't watch the whole thing. I really can't. It is awful. Holy shit.
But, there's really good reason for him being as pissed as he was at the WWE because they fucked him so hard. Okay, thoughts on the screw job. Go.
Thoughts on the screw job? I'm one of those freaks that agrees with Vince McMahon.
You know what? I'm actually kind of one of those too, and it really sucks that it went down the way that it did. I wish that it didn't, but by Vince's, reasoning, I kind of have to agree with him.
Yeah, but by doing so, he's pretty much he lost the trust of everyone in the locker room on that day because this is Bret Hart we're talking about. This is the guy who went to war for WWE for years and was constantly the guy who was in Vince's corner. And to see him just get fucked over like that, like, there had to have been a better way for that to go down. Like, there just had to have been. Like, maybe Bret could have compromised a little more, but at the same time, why? And it hurts doubly as much because it was in Canada, and you cannot understate how incredibly over he was in Canada. As, like, he was basically the hero of Canada, and, like, just at that time was just so anti-America at the time. But I'm stumbling at this point. Somebody help me.
Okay. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, man. The screw job was probably one of the worst things that WWE has ever had to go through. And if it had been handled a different way, you know, it probably would not have been as bad. If they had just let the match go on without that really fucked up finish, you know, it would have been okay. But still, even though I keep saying, like, it ain't right, it's like I said, I kind of have to agree with Vince on this. It's business, and you got to protect, like, you know, some of your most trusted assets and whatnot.
When he did get screw jobbed, I should say, he left behind one match that everyone should remember him from, besides Owen Hart versus Bret Hart at SummerSlam 1994. There is one more match that is such an important match, and it is a match that still is unbelievably great.
Are you talking about Bret versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13?
Are you talking about Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels in an Iron Man match for the WWE Championship?
No, that match sucked, and don't let WWE tell you otherwise. I'm talking about... I hated that match. It's so
Why do you hate the Iron Man match?
Because I was done after like 20 minutes. I was like, okay, 20 minutes in, I'm done. Pin him now. 30 minutes goes on. Okay, pin him now. 40 minutes. I'm tired. I'm switching the match off. It just goes on and on and on and on, and I hate it. I'm talking about the match that Nikki was referring to.
Yes.
Oh.
WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, this was like, wasn't this like right after Stone Cold won King of the Ring and was starting to get into his Stone Cold persona?
It was actually beforehand. It was he won that sometime in like May or June, whenever the King of the Ring pay-per-view usually went on. And I know that because that was right after Triple H got punished for the curtain call, but it was somewhat after that where he was really getting the Stone Cold persona. Stone Cold was a super hot heel, and WrestleMania 13 changed everything. There's a lot going on in the match, so we have to dissect it piece by piece. First, the blood. Vince McMahon was, at that point, very much like how he is today. He banned cutting. He did not want any cuts happening. He did not want blood. So
because he didn't want his guys to look like fucking Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, so Bret and Austin actually broke the rules by doing that. But the blood was very important in this match because it told the story of a man that was going to go through hell and high water to win, but he would never give up. And no, I'm not talking about fucking John Cena doing that shit every week on Raw. I'm talking about doing it when it counts. And it counted here. The second thing that you take away from this match is the perfect version of what many say is the hardest thing to do in wrestling. The double turn. Can one of you please explain what the double turn is?
Yes, the double turn. When you have a face versus a heel in a match, and then by the end of the match, the face is now a heel, and the heel is now face. At the time, Stone Cold was the heel, and also at the time, Bret Hart was the face. But for whatever reason, by the end of the match, everybody was booing the fuck out of Bret Hart, and they were cheering like crazy for Stone Cold.
It's not for whatever reason. It's because Bret Hart kept attacking Stone Cold Steve Austin even after he had passed out. So Ken Shamrock, the referee, had to actually pull him away. That's why people were booing him. It was sort of like the stop, he's already dead kind of thing.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
It was Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn 1.0.
Oh, fucking God. That shit was hard to watch. But
That was.
Stone Cold went face because he didn't give up. He stood there just bleeding like crazy, crimson red, constantly going, "No, I'm not giving up. No, I'm gonna break out." And then he passes out, and everybody has so much sympathy for him. And from there, it just builds, and Stone Cold Steve Austin becomes the face of the company, where Bret Hart becomes the super Canadian anti-American bastard, which happens to be like some of his best work.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. It's kind of hard to pull that off, like to be just super over to one demographic and a super face to one demographic and a super heel to another demographic. But
that's John Cena right now, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's the only one besides maybe Roman Reigns that happens for. Like, and he might be trying, but like that was obviously not the intention. They were trying to get Cena over as they've been trying to get Cena over as the guy, period, end of discussion, not just the guy for the kids. For this, it was definitely intentional to get Hart as a heel for Americans and as a face for Canadians, and they pulled it off with aplomb.
That double turn is the perfect double turn. I've never seen one done better, and it is the hardest thing to do in wrestling, too. If you haven't seen that match, we say this every single time we name a wrestler, but it is one of those things. You have to watch it.
We're getting to the point on the list where we're talking about some of the greatest matches of all time. If you're a wrestling fan, you kind of have to watch this shit because it's the best that the company has ever produced. So watch that shit. Do it. Like, pause this video and go do it. Welcome back. Glad you saw that shit.
That was quick. Damn.
He paused the people paused the video and then went to go see it, and now they're back.
Yay.
It's right around the time when we're ending this video, so.
Yeah. Bret Hart at number 6.
Let's do a quick little recap. All right, we had number 10, Rey Mysterio, number 9, Mick Foley, number 8, The Rock, number 7, CM Punk, and number 6, Bret Hart. Join us on the next and final installment of our top 15 favorite wrestlers of all time, where we get down to the nitty-gritty. We get down to the all-time greats of all time, of the history, of the forevers and the evers of infinity times 2.
But first, before we go, I have to pose a question. One of my friends asked us about wrestling entrance themes. He asked us what my favorite was, and I said I'm very partial to D-Generation X's entrances. But then he asked us all a question. If you were a wrestler, what song would you choose as your entrance theme, and why?
That's a good question.
I'll do mine first. I chose a song from the video game F-Zero GX, which, by the way, that is without a doubt the best racing game that has ever been made. It is
the best wrestling game.
The best wrestling.
It's better than any video game that the WWE's put out lately. Am I right?
Let's also try to forget that WWE did make a racing game called fucking WWE or Crush Hour.
That wasn't a racing game. That was a Twisted Metal clone.
What the fuck ever?
Nikki, continue.
Okay, the song from F-Zero GX is called Brain Cleaner. So you're produced by, got it right here somewhere, Hidenori Soji and Daiki Kasho. I suck at Japanese name.
Hold on, I'll get it. It's pronounced Hidenori Shoji and Daiki Kasho.
Thank you.
There we go.
You weeaboo.
I'm just good at pronouncing shit. Anyway, why do you like it?
It's got this kind of pop to it that, like, when you're coming down the ramp, if I was a wrestler and I was coming down to the ramp to that music, I would be able to come down to the tune of it, and it would, like, I could interact with the music, and that's one of the things that I kind of like whenever I think about this sort of thing.
Okay, my pick is Okay, just mentioning the game that this is based on is already going to get a lot of eye rolls and just sighs. Okay, many people who know me know that a lot of the stuff that I used to do was like Sonic related, Sonic the Hedgehog related, and one of my guilty pleasure games was Shadow the Hedgehog.
I am rolling my eyes at you so hard right now.
I know, but my pick for my theme song is I Am All of Me by Crush 40. I know what you're all thinking. Oh, it's so dark and edgy. Why did they have to do this? But it's a guilty pleasure for me. I really enjoy the song. I enjoy jamming out to it. I could see myself coming down to the ring to it. It's just, I think it's a great song. I know it gets like a lot of, rolling eyes and like, oh, dude, what the fuck? Really? You like that game? But it's just, I really enjoy it. I think it's a good pick for me.
Alright, so now it comes down to me. My pick for the song that I would like to enter with is called The Strongest Iron Arena, composed by Akitaka Toyama from Tekken Tag Tournament 2. This song is kick-ass. It's got this great industrial theme going, and it uses a lot of modulators and filters to keep it from getting stale, which a lot of wrestling themes have that problem. There's not enough variation in pitch, or there's not enough going on. It just kind of repeats over and over again. This song does not have its problem, but it also repeats enough to the point where you can walk through it, and you can do cool entrances with it, and it's very fluid. I really like it, and it's my pick for if I were a wrestler to enter with.
By the way, Toon, what is your favorite entrance? Because we heard Calcos's, but what's yours?
Gee, I wonder what it could possibly be. I wonder what I've used in my intro videos, or when I enter the
eyes, what do you see?
There we go.
The cult of personality.
Which, by the way, people that are listening to this, I'm going to be at BabsCon hosting the Brony Reviewing 101 panel, and yes, we are going to be doing the entrance themes again. I will just say this, I'm going to be debuting a new version of Cult of Personality, one that hasn't been heard before. So, for fans of mine that are watching this that are going to BabsCon, you're going to enjoy it.
Next video, wrestlers number 5 through numero 1. Stay tuned.
My favorite intro is Sami Zayn, by the way.